So private markets think, there could be some really interesting investment opportunities here, and a lot of them aren't accessible, of course, via public markets. That's why they're private. So can you start out the video by giving a broad overview of some typical investments?
There's lots of different asset classes kind of underneath the private equity umbrella. Venture capital is one that most people, kind of immediately associate with private markets, and real assets is one, that I think people are somewhat familiar with. That includes real estate, timberland, farmland, infrastructure, intellectual property, natural resources, the list goes on, all the way to things like leveraged buyouts. The easiest way to think about it is assets that you cannot access through public channels.
So when you think about just the available investments in the in the public markets, there are a lot of ways to invest, a lot of things to get involved in. So why invest in private markets if we already have all of those types of investments available?
And a simple one-word answer would be returns. We would expect that the private investments that we are helping our clients get into should outpace their public counterparts.
Are there any other limitations that come with investing in private markets?
Liquidity is probably number one, right? Like that is, you have to be able to stomach, locking your money up for 5, 7, 10 plus years for some of these investments we're doing. The other drawback would be there's typically higher entry costs, right? So they're called private markets for a reason because they are harder to access. They're typically priced quarterly. So you're really only going to have quarterly performance. And a lot of time it lags because these have to be audited. So, you might not know your 12/31 values until, March. You've got to be able to be willing to, give up some of the transparency on the daily basis for quarterly transparency.
So how do we help our clients evaluate whether private investments are a good fit for their portfolio? And then if we decide, hey, this is a good fit, how do we help them design that portfolio and move forward?
It starts with the first conversation of would it make sense? And before we're even bringing that up to a client, right, we probably already know the liquidity issue is, do they have the ability to be illiquid with some of their money? The next one I would say would be from a risk tolerance standpoint. They are still risky investments. They can still go up and go down just like traditional public markets. You just don't feel it as much because there's this smoothing effect when you only, price your assets every quarter. Then it becomes a conversation of pros and cons, right? And is the client comfortable? Knowing your risk tolerance, knowing your liquidity needs, here's the ones that we think would work for you, and we want to build it in a way that it's working in conjunction with the traditional portfolio. These are not just a 10-minute conversation, hey, let's go ahead and get you in this. It is a holistic view of knowing your cash flow needs, knowing what the traditional portfolio is doing. Here's where we think private equity could be a good fit.